Hello, welcome to my first Q&A video. If you are not familiar with me, or you're not very familiar with me, I'm Krissa. I'm a 2D game artist and animator for my job. I've been in the game industry for 7 or 8 years. And on the side, I've been doing illustration and building up my independent art business. I've been wanting to do a Q&A video for a very long time, but I just haven't got around to it. You know how it is? Well, that ends today because we're going to do my first Q&A video. Some patrons asked some really good questions and I'm really excited to get into them. Probably there's gonna need to be multiple Q&A videos because the questions are really good, but I think they're going to require a bit of a long answer and I don't want to skip any of them. So we're gonna answer a couple today, but if you are curious, you can always pop into my Twitch streams and you can also ask me anything there. Ella asks, how did your art journey begin? Did you draw a lot when you were younger and develop from there, or was it a conscious effort to improve your art until you were satisfied with it? I thought this question would be a good one to start out with since not everyone knows much about me unless you attend my streams. So let me try and give a summary of my art journey okay, let's just dive right in. I've been doodling since before I can remember, so I don't have like an exact age that I know of when I started drawing. It's just something I feel like I've always done. I was always the kid who preferred scribbling on like a blank piece of copy paper rather than doing like a coloring page. I think a lot of kids doodle when they're young, right? It's just that they eventually kind of like stop or lose interest as they get older. But then, you know, there's the kids who just like never stop doodling, and I was one of those kids. I just never stopped even as I got older. And I was also really inspired by like Disney when I was growing up. I was absolutely obsessed with The Little Mermaid. She was like my fave. I didn't start putting like a somewhat conscious effort into improving my artwork until maybe sort of middle school age. Like before that, it was always just like doodling whatever I wanted, not really caring about improving. But then once I reached middle school age, that's when I started doing like online role playing with my friend. And so I was developing original characters and I wanted to be able to draw my original characters and my friend's original characters. And so I started trying to get better at drawing people. And also that was about the same time where I got really into video games and I was super duper inspired by Final Fantasy. My big dream at the time was to someday design characters for the Final Fantasy games. Now, as I entered high school, I started learning more mediums like charcoal, oil, markers, etc. In high school, I think I improved a lot in high school when it comes to not my natural style, more like realistic styles, and also just the fact that in high school I kind of learned how to finish a piece of art rather than just doodling. I had also dabbled a bit in digital as a teenager, but not very consistently. The tablet that I finally got after much begging kind of didn't work. It was like not the best brand and it would like jump all over the screens. But I did really like working on computers doing other stuff, so I decided that I wanted to learn 3D and study animation so that I could work in the 3D animation industry. I went to a university that was not an art university. It did have a reputable animation program. Going there and being around a bunch of way better artists than I was a big wake-up call to me. Realistically, my drawing skills were just not up to par. Even though I had been drawing my whole life, I guess I hadn't been putting as much conscious effort into like improving as some of the other people had. The first time I applied to the program, I was rejected. But I am nothing if not determined and persistent. For the spring and summer quarters between the application dates, rather than like taking a summer holiday or a break or anything, I enrolled in as many figure drawing classes as I could to try and improve my skills and improve my portfolio so that I could be accepted to the program. Luckily, the hard work paid off and I was accepted the next time I applied. But seeing as I wasn't even close to being one of the amazing artists that were in that program, and also being told to draw subjects and like in a style that I wasn't really interested in over and over and over again, made me quickly give up on my dream of doing actual drawing for a career, which is like sad to say, but it's how I felt at the time, was that, oh, I'm just like not good enough to make drawing a career. So instead what I did, because I still wanted to go into the animation industry, is I decided to pursue visual effects, which is quite a bit more technical, but still really fun and varied in a lot of different stuff that a visual effects artist gets to do. So it's not like I didn't feel like I was giving up something to go into this. I felt like I was being realistic and I was pretty good at visual effects, and they were fun to make. Once I graduated, I landed in the video game industry, kind of by happenstance, as a visual effects artist. And my first job was at Disney Interactive, and then a little while later I moved to ArenaNet. But by the time that I graduated from university, I was so burnt out of actually drawing that I basically didn't draw anything for about 2 years. After those 2 years, we went on a trip to Italy. And I saw all of the beautiful like murals and ceiling paintings there and was super inspired. And then on top of that, while I was there, I picked up some of Alessandro Barbucci's comics. He is the artist who did Skydoll and Echo. And I felt so much inspiration at seeing his work that it was the first time in a really long time that I felt like a really strong burning passion and inspiration to draw characters and work on art. And I just hadn't felt like that in a really long time. It's really from that moment that I feel like my digital art and independent art journey really took off. Or at least started. I think seeing Barbucci's work and seeing how it was sort of cute and sexy and like kind of anime-ish inspired, even though he was European, it helped inspire me to be okay with drawing what I want to draw in the style that I want to draw in, and it helped me shut out messages that discouraged me from pursuing that style and those interests that I had received in university. Instead of trying to draw stuff that I was not interested in and in a style that I hated, it was from then on that I focused on improving what I enjoy. So that was almost like a switch flipped for me. I immediately leveled up simply from drawing what I like and being passionate about it. From there, it has been more of a slow, steady kind of journey of consistently both drawing what I like and trying to improve it. And all of like the art business stuff that I've built up has also been a really slow and just kind of steady process over the past 7-ish years. Sarah asks, how old were you? How long had you been doing art when you started to earn money with it? What was your path to earning money with art? So you kind of just heard my like general art journey, but when it comes to like the art business stuff, let's talk about that. Hey, what's up? If you've made it this far in the video, you are a very special person, and I'm wondering if you can hit the thumbs up button and maybe give me a little sub. Also, if you enjoy my artwork and the videos and tutorials, etc., you can pop on over to my Patreon to support my work and get lots of extra rewards and goodies. I really appreciate it. Okay, back to the video. The first time I tried selling my art was probably when I was 14 or 15. My dad told me about this website called Cafe Press. I think it's probably still up, but it's basically a print-on-demand sort of service, so kind of like Redbubble, kind of like Society6. I had painted like this kind of cute little girl holding a bunny, and she had a heart on it, and so I put that up as like a Valentine's Day card, and I would try and sell it as a Valentine's Day card on Cafe Press. I think that like my parents probably bought some cards. Other than that, maybe there was a one-off purchase here or there, but nothing substantial, obviously. Well, that was probably the first time I tried making money with my art. As I said, about 7 years ago is when I finally got into like real pursuing digital art and trying to get better and better. And probably that's the point. Once I started seeing a little bit of attention, a little bit of success online, then I thought maybe I will try something to like sell my art again. And so I thought, oh, maybe I could sell a digital sketchbook online. But I wasn't confident enough that people would want just like my random sketches, but I knew something that people were interested in was spicy art, and it was something I had been wanting to try drawing anyway, because I had never drawn like nudes. I decided to like give it a try because it was something I was interested in. Now, as you guys know, my spicy art is pretty mild. It still is pretty mild, but that's what I decided to try creating and selling first. And I drew some mildly spicy artwork and put it together in a little digital sketchbook, and then I sold that sketchbook on Gumroad, and it actually did pretty all right. Sold quite a number of copies. It's no longer available, but it was up there for quite a while. After I created that spicy little sketchbook and was selling it on Gumroad, I had also started opening up commissions. Now, I had this rule for myself that I did not want to advertise or open commissions until someone asked if I took commissions. And that was just kind of probably a self-protective thing where it's like I didn't want to open commissions and then be sad because no one commissioned me. So I'm not saying that it's like a good thing or a bad thing, it's just what I did. But eventually someone did message me and ask if I accept commissions, and so from then I started doing some commissions on DeviantArt. Someone who had commissioned me asked if I have heard about this thing called Patreon, if I want to get my art like maybe supported by people who like my work. And I had heard about Patreon, but I was hesitant because I wasn't sure with like my full-time job and everything if I would be able to push out enough content every month. And I kind of told them this, and they said, well, they have this other option where you can like charge per creation or whatever instead of per month. So for those of you who haven't been here for that long, although some of you have, you guys are amazing. Those of you who have been with my Patreon since the beginning, my Patreon for a really long time was by art pack. So basically it was not monthly, it was, you know, how we have art packs now, it was like that, but I would complete one art pack maybe every other month. And so over the years it's grown and built up, and then at one point I realized, okay, I'm in a flow for Patreon content and we can switch it to monthly. So that's like kind of the Patreon side of things. At the same time, I would also dabble in other things, like I dabbled in Redbubble. I think the next big thing was trying out my first convention and trying to sell my own prints at a convention. And when I got into that, I was like super in love with conventions. And then each consecutive year, I attended more and more conventions until it got to a point where I actually left my studio job to focus on conventions. And for about a year, I was doing conventions like every other weekend, probably sometimes multiple weekends in a row. It was pretty exhausting, but also exciting. That's also when I built my online shop that's on my actual like own website. Where I could sell the prints that were left over from conventions. For some artists, running their own online shop or their own Etsy is their main source of income. For me, I found it to be rewarding, but it was also so much work, and I was constantly worried about messing up orders, and I was always stressed out about shipping. And then once I moved to Europe, it made running an online shop even harder because shipping from Sweden is so dang expensive. So I ended up paring down my online shop, and now I basically just run my secret Patreon shop where I can offer any leftover Patreon prints and stickers, but I don't sell like large prints from my own store anymore. For the public, I have my imprint shop. I have never tended to make as much with a print-on-demand printer, but Imprint does seem to do a better job at giving artists a fair cut when their artwork sells. So it's a bit of money like every once in a while to help contribute to my income, but it's definitely not like a main source of income. Let's talk about Twitch and YouTube income. When I first started streaming on Twitch like many years ago, I thought I might want to become a full-time Twitch streamer. But after I took a break to move and then I came back to streaming, I had realized that being a full-time streamer really isn't exactly what I wanted. What I want to be is a full-time independent artist. And I use my Twitch streams, yes, to do art, but it's more to like hang out and connect with you, my community, and we kind of do art on the side and we just have a good time. So because I'm such a talkative streamer, my art process really slows down when I'm streaming. Not only that, but Twitch can just be tough to make a full-time living on without grinding hours and hours of being live. To me, it just seemed like a very inflexible way to work and live. What about YouTube? Hey YouTube. Again, I'm not really a full-time YouTuber, obviously, since I don't release public videos very often, but since a few of my videos seem to have been helpful for people, the YouTube algorithm has deemed them worthy to get a fair amount of views. So because of that, I do make a small amount of money both from my Twitch and my YouTube, and they help contribute to my art business income. It's not really enough to pay for like rent or anything, but it's at least a nice little bit to like contribute to the pot of income. Something that you have to realize is that generally you need all of these smaller income streams, and then they make sort of the monthly income that will hopefully be enough to pay your bills, right? So that's one reason why I dabble in so many things. But I'm not done talking about Twitch and YouTube, because I have found the real value of putting time into growing on places like Twitch and YouTube and like other social media as well, but especially Twitch and YouTube, has come in the form of sponsorships. I have not done a ton of sponsorships, and I only like to work with the company if it's a company I like, and or the project that they want, like if they want a commission of a character or something. Sounds fun to me, basically. So I have been lucky to have my Twitch stream sponsored by DeviantArt for the past year, as many of you who come to my streams know. I have done a couple of one-off sponsorships for videos, posts, or streams here and there from a couple other companies. So when it comes to just like my own financial planning, I don't count on sponsorships because I never know what's gonna come up, but it's just nice to have and like have as a savings for in case I don't make very much in the future. I tend to be a little bit risk averse, if you can't tell. Another art business income that has come up in the past year has been licensing my work. I have licensed out a few of my artworks into diamond paintings, and from that I get paid royalties on the kits of my designs that sell. At this point, again, it's not enough to pay my bills, but every quarter it's nice to get an amount that I can contribute towards like my income as a whole. And last, but maybe the least interesting because it's just so straightforward, is the occasional client work. I don't usually do a ton of client work, but every once in a while a publisher or an author will come to me for an illustration or a book cover, and if I have time and the project sounds fun, I will take the job. Again, it's not something that I always love to rely on, but it can help out with contributing to my monthly income every once in a while. So my journey through trying different ways to make money off of my artwork and be able to do this full time has been a lot of trial and error. For me, what has worked so far is building up my subscriptions, be it on a place like Patreon, Ko-fi, DeviantArt subscriptions, whatever. Licensing my work, taking occasional sponsored deals, taking occasional publishing commissions, selling my work on imprint, earning revenue from streaming on Twitch, and having a YouTube channel. And that kind of goes in, I kind of listed that in order of like biggest to least, maybe-ish. If I still lived in the US, I think conventions would still rank very highly on that list. since that was my main business income for a while. Since I live in Europe now and I am a shut-in, it's not really part of my strategy anymore for my art business to attend a ton of conventions. By the way, if you want more detail on building income streams, I highly recommend checking out the How I Build Income Streams advice article. We go into more like detailed advice in there. But going along with this whole topic, we have another question. Catherine asks, I know everyone's journey is different when starting an art business, but is there a general process that everyone goes through to get to the point where they can earn a living off their art? And I know I just said this, but if you haven't already, I recommend checking out the transitioning from side hustle to full-time independent article that I wrote up on Patreon. The way I look at the general process that people tend to go through when it comes to earning a living off of their art is in different like stages. So the first stage is like experimentation, skill building, and like audience growth stage. At this stage, generally people have a different job, or they're supported in some other way. Maybe they live with family or something. So they're not having to like panic and like try and take a bunch of commissions because they need to like pay their bills at the end of the month. That seems very stressful to me. I feel like generally people have like a day job. So this is the stage where the most important thing is skill building, like I said, and also finding your voice. But this is also where you start dabbling in potential ways you could make money. But it's again, it's all about just experimenting. You're not committed to like having to earn enough to pay your rent from like selling a t-shirt on Redbubble. You start dabbling in potential ways to make money. Maybe you're selling prints, maybe you're taking a commission here and there, you're starting a Patreon, etc. This is like the experimentation stage. You try a bunch of stuff and see what maybe will stick. But any money that happens to be made on the side, it might not be very much. It's more about experimenting than being overly concerned about earning an income. The second stage is about growing your confidence and growing your core audience. So you can continue experimenting with income strategies, but at this stage, you're gonna start to hone in on what resonates with people and what resonates with you as well, and where you can start to decide which types of income streams work for you and are your priority, and which income streams are not working or are not your priority. The next stage is all about like long game plan. This is a really, really difficult stage because it usually consists of juggling a different job while you are also dedicating a lot of time on the side to continue building your art, building your skills, building your income stream. It's like at this stage, you have kind of figured out some of what works, and now it's all about focusing on growing that. But now you have to put in that long-term work and be patient while it slowly builds. From here, I think that what can happen is a few things. And be aware that that third stage that I just talked about, it can last for a really long time. It can last for years. It lasted for years for me, for sure. But anyway, from here, the next thing that happens generally, I think, of what I've observed, maybe it doesn't happen this way for everybody, but what I've observed is that sometimes you can reach close enough to your monthly income goal that you feel comfortable transitioning to your art business full time. So maybe that's a slow transition out of your job, like kind of what I have been doing. Like I'm down to 2 days a week at a game studio instead of 5 days a week, while the rest of the time I work on my art business. Or it can mean, maybe you just quit because you've built up enough income stream that you're okay and you can just finally make the leap. However, something else that I think frequently happens is that there's a lot of artists who are driven so mad by their day job as well as running their business on the side that they decide to just quit and figure out how to make the art thing work. I think this happens a fair amount. It happened to me years back when I quit my job in the US to do conventions full time. I probably wasn't making my monthly income goal, but I had been like for years wanting to switch to doing full-time digital artwork for so long that I finally decided I'm just going to do it and figure it out. And because I was doing conventions, it basically worked out all right. But it wasn't like it wasn't so much of like a controlled transition that I'm doing now where I'm slowly phasing out. I think that the risk that happens when someone like suddenly quits their job or they decide to make a leap without planning a more like without reaching their monthly income goal is that sometimes that means you're going to have to pick up another job later on when you find that things aren't working out. And we never hear about this because it's not very glamorous. It's also okay if this happens. If you decide a few months into doing artwork full time that, you know, this might not work out, I'm not making as much as I need, I might need to pick up a side job, it's not a failure. I just want to put that out there. It's not a failure if that happens. It's just part of the journey. It happened to me. I mean, when I moved after being a full-time independent artist for a year, after I moved, I had to pick up a studio job and work a day job again. It's just part of the journey sometimes. And some people, they don't have to. Sometimes people, you know, quit their jobs and everything works out and, you know, they are millionaire artists. Actually, probably not millionaire artists, but I'm just rambling. Oh boy, that was a lot of artist business talk overload. I hope it wasn't too much for you, but it is a topic that I enjoy talking about. I think that it's as independent artists and freelance artists, I think we tend to run into this issue where we have to be entrepreneurial minded, and some of us are, and some of us really enjoy it. Also, it's just not talked about very much, and it's kind of hard to find reliable information about. And then there's also a lot of us who don't really, we're not like business minded. I think that happens too. Artists tend to have a hard time with like being business minded or marketing minded. And I would like us to talk more openly about art business and that side of things, because I think it is very valuable to discuss. Anywho, thank you so much, you guys, for hanging out, and keep an eye out for the next Q&A video coming maybe next month, I guess, so I can get to more of those questions. There's some more really good questions that include some actual like art tip type stuff, so I will get to that. And see you next time. Also, you can say bye to where is he? Malchi, right there. Good boy. There's my good boy. Okay, bye-bye, guys.